He was a small man with a soft voice, thin frame, and unassuming demeanor, yet he brought an empire to its knees. Born Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi in 1869 in Porbandar, India, his life began without any hint of the revolutionary power he would one day embody. His early years were marked by discipline, tradition, and a cultural identity steeped in Hindu values and Jain philosophy. From a young age, Gandhi showed curiosity, but he was not yet the symbol of peace and resistance. His family was part of the merchant caste, and like many young Indians of the time, he was groomed for a life of practical responsibility. At 19, he traveled to London to study law. There, his transformation began. Surrounded by Western ideals, he grappled with identity, purpose, and his place in the vast machinery of British colonial power. He tried to fit in, adopting English manners, dress, and even food. But none of it felt real. None of it felt like him. It wasn't until he moved to South Africa that his worldview cracked open. In 1893, Gandhi accepted a legal contract in the British colony. On a train to Pretoria, he was thrown out of first class for being Indian. That moment became his awakening. In that humiliating act, Gandhi found clarity. He saw not just an insult to his dignity but a reflection of how millions of others were treated every day. Racial discrimination, injustice, and oppression, these were no longer abstract concepts. They were personal. He began organizing resistance, not through weapons, but through principle. He coined a term, satyagraha. It meant truth force or soul force. It was a philosophy rooted in nonviolent resistance. Not passivity. Not surrender. But a powerful assertion of dignity and justice without lifting a single weapon. For over 2 decades in South Africa, Gandhi honed this philosophy. He fought laws that discriminated against Indians, led marches, endured imprisonment, and inspired unity among diverse communities. He realized that the greatest enemy wasn't the British, but fear. When people shed fear, they became unstoppable. And when he finally returned to India in 1915, he was no longer just a lawyer or activist. He was a spiritual leader with a strategy that could change the world. India was a nation suffocating under British rule. Economic exploitation, famine, cultural erasure, the chains of colonialism were heavy. But Gandhi did not call for vengeance. He called for awakening. He traveled across the country, barefoot, speaking to peasants, industrialists, and students alike. He preached self-reliance, simplicity, and above all, courage. The British expected rebellion to come with violence. They were prepared for bombs and bullets. But Gandhi offered none. Instead, he asked people to spin their own cloth instead of buying British textiles. He led boycotts, hunger strikes, and mass protests. The Salt March in 1930 became a turning point. Over 240 miles on foot, he led thousands to the Arabian Sea to make salt, defying British law. It was salt, a humble mineral, that challenged an empire. Gandhi was arrested. But the world took notice. Newspapers across continents covered the march. The image of a frail man confronting the might of the British Raj without anger or hate stunned the global consciousness. And yet, Gandhi was not immune to criticism. Many found his methods too slow. Some believed nonviolence was naive. Others questioned whether it could ever bring true independence. But Gandhi was unmoved. He believed that the means were as important as the ends. If freedom was to be gained through hatred, it would be hollow. Throughout the 1930s and 40s, Gandhi continued to lead by example. He lived modestly, ate simply, and wore only homespun cloth. He challenged not just political systems but human nature. He asked people to look within, to defeat the violence inside themselves. He knew that real change would come not just from political independence, but from moral evolution. When World War II broke out, Gandhi's stance against violence was tested again. He refused to support the British war effort unless India was granted independence. The British refused, and Gandhi launched the Quit India movement in 1942. He was arrested again. Thousands were imprisoned. The movement was crushed. But the fire had already spread. The people of India had tasted resistance. And the British, drained by war and mounting pressure, began to falter. In 1947, India finally gained its independence. But it came with a price. The partition of India and Pakistan brought communal violence, displacement, and bloodshed. Gandhi was devastated. He had dreamed of unity, but instead, the nation was divided. He spent his final days fasting, walking into riot-torn areas, trying to quell the violence with his presence alone. While others fueled hatred, Gandhi remained committed to peace. But not everyone shared his vision. On January 30, 1948, as he walked to his evening prayer in New Delhi, he was shot by a Hindu nationalist who believed Gandhi had betrayed the Hindu cause by being too conciliatory to Muslims. With his last breath, Gandhi whispered, "Hey Ram," invoking the name of God. The man who had preached non-violence was silenced by violence. But in death, his legacy grew even larger. Gandhi's influence didn't end with India's independence. His philosophy echoed around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, and countless others drew inspiration from his ideas. Nonviolent resistance became a tool for justice in struggles far beyond India. Gandhi proved that power doesn't always reside in armies or governments. True power lies in conviction, in truth, and in the refusal to submit to injustice. He changed the rules of resistance. He rewrote the script of revolution. And he did it without hatred. He did it with love. The legacy of Mahatma Gandhi is not measured by monuments or speeches. It is measured by the transformation of the human heart. It is measured by the quiet revolutions that begin in the soul and ripple out into the world. Gandhi challenged people to rise above revenge, to reject the easy satisfaction of hatred. He believed that justice without compassion was incomplete. He believed that the true test of a people's strength was not how they treated their allies, but how they treated their enemies. His idea of peace was not passive. It was active, demanding, radical. Peace, in Gandhi's mind, required courage greater than any battlefield. It required people to stand unarmed before tanks, to speak truth to power with nothing but sincerity in their hearts. It required restraint in the face of provocation, calm in the face of rage. Gandhi knew that the world would always be full of conflict. He never denied the reality of injustice. But he offered an alternative path to resistance. Not one of submission, but one of profound moral force. He asked questions that had no easy answers. Could a person be free if they harbored hatred? Could a society heal if it continued cycles of retribution? Could a revolution succeed if it lost its soul? For Gandhi, victory was not defined by flags raised or enemies defeated. Victory was defined by the ability to remain human in the face of inhumanity. This philosophy was not without its limitations. In some instances, critics argue that nonviolence did not prevent oppression. That peace alone was not enough to dismantle systems built on exploitation and brutality. But Gandhi never claimed nonviolence was a magic solution. He claimed it was the highest form of resistance a person could offer. It was about preserving one's dignity and transforming the oppressor by refusing to mirror their cruelty. Long after his death, his teachings continued to guide movements across the globe. During the American Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King Jr. studied Gandhi's writings deeply. He visited India, walked in Gandhi's footsteps, and applied his principles to the struggle against racial segregation. In doing so, he helped shift the narrative in America from confrontation to conscience. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela, once a militant leader, later embraced Gandhi's legacy of forgiveness and reconciliation to heal a deeply divided nation. In the Philippines, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, Gandhi's spirit appeared wherever people refused to fight hatred with hatred, but perhaps Gandhi's greatest message was directed not at governments or institutions, but at the individual. He taught that each person has the power to resist injustice in their own life. That change begins not in parliaments or battlefields, but in the choices we make every day. Whether we lie or tell the truth. Whether we choose kindness or cruelty. Whether we seek understanding or deepen division. His life was a testimony to the idea that a single person, armed only with faith and conviction, can challenge an empire. He asked us to look beyond our anger, beyond our fear, and to see the humanity in even our harshest opponents. He taught that forgiveness is not weakness, but strength. That love is not submission, but revolution. The world we live in today is full of noise, division, and conflict. Every day we are told that power comes through domination, that winning means crushing your rivals, that peace is naive. Gandhi's life offers a quiet but powerful contradiction. He did not raise a sword. He did not command armies. He did not seize power. And yet he won. He won the hearts of millions. He won the respect of adversaries. He won a place in history not through conquest, but through conscience. And though he is gone, his words still echo. Be the change you wish to see in the world. It is not just a slogan. It is a challenge, a call to action. It asks us to stop waiting for someone else to fix things. To stop blaming others. To start with ourselves. Every revolution begins with a decision. To stand, to speak, to live differently. Gandhi made that decision and never turned back. Even in the face of prison, rejection, and assassination, he stood firm. Because he believed that truth, love, and peace were not just ideals, but forces stronger than any bullet. And he proved it. Today, in a world still searching for peace, still struggling with injustice, his life reminds us that true power lies not in violence, but in virtue. Not in domination, but in dialogue. Not in hatred, but in hope. Gandhi's story is not one of perfection. He was flawed, human, and made mistakes. But that makes his achievements even more remarkable. He didn't wait to become perfect to act. He simply chose to act according to his conscience, and that made all the difference. His journey from a shy lawyer to a global icon shows us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. That leadership is not about command, but about example. That peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. And that love, when chosen over hate, becomes the most powerful weapon of all. So when we look at the problems in our world today, we must ask ourselves what Gandhi would do. Would he shout louder? Or listen deeper? Would he seek revenge? Or seek understanding? Would he fight for his side? Or fight for what is right? These questions are not easy. They challenge us. They discomfort us. But that is exactly what Gandhi intended. He wanted us to think, to reflect, and to rise. Not through destruction, but through transformation. Not through domination, but through dignity. Not through fear, but through fearless compassion, and maybe, just maybe, if we listen closely to the silence he left behind, we will hear his message still speaking, still urging us to choose peace. Still reminding us that one person can change the world, not by shouting, not by striking, but by simply standing, quietly, courageously, for what is true.